Right now, there is a version of you who made a different choice this morning. Not in a dream, not in a metaphor. In the actual mathematics of quantum physics, that version is as real as the one reading these words. Hugh Everett worked this out, and the equations have never once told him he was wrong. Reality does not pick one outcome, it keeps all of them. Before we follow that thread into the strangest idea in modern science, do something small for me. Tap like and subscribe, because this channel is built for minds that enjoy being gently broken open. And tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? Let us begin somewhere ordinary. Take a coin out of your pocket and balance it on your thumb. Before you flip it, you already know the rules of the world it lives in. It will land heads, or it will land tails. One of those things will happen, and the other will not. While the coin is spinning in the air, you might say it is undecided, but you do not really mean that. You mean only that you cannot see the answer yet. The coin is already committed to a path. The physics that governs its tumble was settled the instant it left your thumb. Your ignorance is the only thing in superposition, not the coin. That is how the large world behaves. It is solid, single, and quietly certain even when we are not. Now shrink the coin. Shrink it past the point where you could ever see it. Shrink it down to a single electron, one of the smallest pieces of matter we know how to talk about. Something changes on the way down, and it is not a small change. It is the strangest thing science has ever found, and we have spent 100 years trying to make peace with it. An electron does not behave like a tiny coin. It behaves like a coin that genuinely has not decided. Not a coin whose answer is hidden from you, but a coin that does not possess a single answer at all until the world forces one out of it. While it is left alone, an electron does not sit in one place being one thing. It exists as a smear of possibilities, every allowed state layered over every other allowed state at the same time. Physicists have a precise word for this layering. They call it superposition. And before you let that word slide past you as jargon, sit with what it is actually claiming. It is claiming that the smallest pieces of reality are, when unwatched, in many states at once. Here is the experiment that makes this undeniable. It is called the double slit experiment. And it is so simple you could almost build it on a kitchen table, yet it has unsettled the clearest minds of the last century. Picture a wall with two narrow vertical slits cut into it, side by side. Behind that wall, a little further back, picture a screen that lights up wherever something strikes it. Now we start firing particles at the wall, one at a time. Electrons, let us say. We fire them slowly, deliberately, one lonely electron after another, with long pauses between each, so there is never any crowd, never any chance of them bumping into one another. Think about what you expect. Each electron is a single particle. It must go through the left slit, or it must go through the right slit. It cannot do both, any more than you can walk through two doorways at once. So after many thousands of electrons, you expect the screen to show two bright bands, one behind each slit, where the particles piled up. Two slits, two stripes. That is the sensible prediction. That is what a world made of tiny coins would give you. That is not what happens. What appears on the screen instead is a pattern of many stripes. Bright band, dark band, bright band, dark band, fading out on both sides. This is the signature of waves. When you drop two stones into a still pond, the ripples spread out and cross through each other, and where two crests meet, they add into a taller crest, and where a crest meets a trough, they cancel into flatness. That crossing and cancelling is called interference. and it is exactly the pattern painted on our screen. The electrons are arriving as if each one were a wave that passed through both slits at the same time and interfered with itself on the way to the screen. Let that sit for a moment. We fired the electrons one at a time. There was never more than one in the apparatus. There was nothing for any single electron to interfere with, except some other version of itself, some part of itself that took the other path. A single indivisible particle behaved as though it explored both routes at once, and the two routes met again and shaped where it was allowed to land. That is superposition made visible. Not a theory written on a chalkboard, but a stain of light on a screen that you could photograph. Now the experiment turns the screw. We become curious, and reasonably so. We want to know which slit each electron really goes through. So we place a tiny detector at the slits, a little instrument that quietly notes, left or right. For every electron that passes, we change nothing else. Same electrons, same slits, same screen. We only add the act of looking. The many stripes vanish. The instant we can tell which path each electron took, the interference pattern collapses into the two plain bands we expected in the first place. Two stripes behind two slits, like ordinary particles. The electrons stop behaving like waves that go both ways, and start behaving like coins that picked a side. The mere availability of the answer, the simple fact that the which path information now exists in the world, is enough to erase the superposition. Sit with how disturbing that is. The behavior of the electron depends on whether the universe keeps a record of what it did. When no record exists, the electron keeps all its possibilities open and shows you the proof in stripes of light. When a record exists, it commits to one path and the magic drains away. This is the heart of the mystery, and every honest physicist will tell you that a full, comfortable, settled explanation of it does not exist. We have the mathematics. The mathematics works perfectly. What we do not have is agreement on what the mathematics means. Let me be careful here, because it would be easy to make this sound like mysticism, and it is not mysticism. It is some of the most precise and most ruthlessly tested science we have. The equations of quantum mechanics predict the results of experiments to more decimal places than almost anything else in human knowledge. When physicists calculate certain properties of the electron using these equations, the answer matches the measurement out to 12 digits. That is the equivalent of measuring the distance from one coast of a continent to the other and being correct to the width of a single human hair. The theory is not vague. The theory is the most accurate description of reality ever written. The strangeness is not a flaw in our knowledge. The strangeness is what the most accurate description of reality is telling us, clearly, in a steady voice, if only we are willing to listen. So what does superposition actually mean? Let us translate it out of the laboratory and into something you can hold. Imagine you are standing at the start of a long hallway with many doors. In the world you know, you walk through one door. Your body is a single object. It has a single position, and to pass through one door is to not pass through the others. That is the rule for large things, like you. But the quantum rule, the rule that governs the electron, is different. The quantum version of you would move down that hallway as a spreading wave, slipping through every unlocked door at once, a little of you flowing through each, all of those flows real, all of them part of the single thing that is you, right up until something at the far end forces the question of where you are. Only then does the wave gather itself into a single answer. The word we keep circling is real. This is the part people resist, and they are right to find it hard. When we say the electron is in many states at once, We are not saying we are unsure which state it is in. We are not describing a gap in our information that better instruments would close. We are saying that the many states are all genuinely present, all contributing, all shaping the outcome in the way both slits were genuinely used to build that pattern of stripes. The smear of possibilities is not a cloud of ignorance hiding a hidden fact. As far as anyone has been able to prove, and people have tried very hard to prove otherwise, the smear is the fact. There is no secret single answer underneath, waiting to be uncovered. Underneath, there are many answers, woven together. Let me give the smear its proper name, because physicists do not just wave their hands at it, they write it down. The full description of a quantum system is called the wave function, and it is the most important object in all of quantum mechanics. The wave function is the mathematical bookkeeping of the superposition. It holds, all at once, every possibility the system contains, and it assigns to each one a kind of weight, a measure of how strongly that possibility is present. When the electron approaches the two slits, its wave function spreads through both, and the stripes on the screen are nothing more than the wave function interfering with itself, the weights adding where the crests align and cancelling where crest meets trough. The pattern of light is the wave function made visible. You are, in a real sense, looking at the shape of possibility itself, printed onto a screen. And here is the rule that connects that shape to what you actually see. A rule so reliable, it is the backbone of the entire field. Where the wave function is strong, you are likely to find the particle. Where it is weak, you are unlikely. Where it cancels to nothing, you will never find it at all, which is why the dark bands in the pattern are truly dark. Places the electron simply never lands, not because something blocks it, but because the possibilities there have erased one another. This is called the Born rule, and it has passed every test ever devised. It tells you the odds flawlessly. What it does not tell you, what nothing in the standard story tells you, is why a spread out wave of pure possibility should suddenly deliver one definite speck of light in one definite place. The rule gives you the odds of the outcome. It says nothing about how the many became one. Hold that gap in your mind. It is the same gap in a new disguise that we keep circling. You might wonder whether this is just a quirk of the electron, some special weirdness of one tiny particle that has nothing to do with the solid world. It is not. The double slit has been run with whole atoms, which behaved as waves and made the stripes. It has been run with large molecules, clusters of hundreds and even thousands of atoms bound together, objects so big they are creeping toward the edge of what a powerful microscope might glimpse, and still, kept isolated and cold and untouched, they pass through both paths at once and paint the interference pattern. There is no sharp wall in nature where quantum behavior stops and ordinary behavior begins. There is only a sliding scale, a question of how well you can keep a thing isolated from the rest of the world. The bigger and warmer and more connected an object is, the harder its superposition is to maintain, and the faster it seems to vanish. But the rules underneath do not change. The atom obeys them. The molecule obeys them. And so, in principle, do you and your coffee cup and the moon. The quantum world is not a separate basement beneath reality. It is the foundation the whole house is built on. You might be feeling a small resistance right now, a quiet objection rising up. If the electron is really in many states at once, you might say, then why have I never seen anything be in many states at once? Why is my coffee cup always in one place? Why is the moon always where I left it? Why does the world I live in look nothing at all like this hallway of open doors? That objection is exactly the right one to have, and it is the doorway to everything that follows. Hold on to it. Carry it with you, because it is the question that organizes this entire story. Because here is the situation we have arrived at. We have a rule for the very small that says possibilities pile up and coexist. We have a world of the very large, your world, where possibilities never pile up and only one thing ever happens. And somewhere between the electron and the coffee cup, between the hallway of open doors and the single door you actually walk through, the many becomes one. The smear becomes a fact. The wave becomes a particle with a definite place. Where does that transition happen? What causes it? What is the rule for when the universe stops keeping its options open and finally chooses? For most of the last century, the standard answer was a kind of polite shrug dressed up in careful language. The answer was that when you measure a quantum system, when you look at it, the superposition collapses. All those layered possibilities suddenly drop away, except one, and that one becomes the reality you observe. Looked at the electron picks a slit, done. This idea even has a name. It is called wave function collapse, and for decades it was simply what students were taught and what most physicists repeated. But notice what that answer quietly does. It puts the act of looking at the center of reality. It suggests that the universe behaves one way when unobserved and another way when observed, as though it cares about being watched. It draws a mysterious line through the world, with quantum rules on one side and ordinary solid rules on the other, and it never quite tells you where that line is, or why it should exist, or what counts as a measurement in the first place. Does a particle collapse the wave when it hits a detector? Does the detector need a human reading it? Does the human need to be conscious? The standard story never answered these questions. It just drew the line wherever it was convenient and asked you not to look too closely at it. For a long time, that was good enough, because the equations gave the right predictions whether or not anyone understood what was actually happening. Physicists had a phrase for this attitude: shut up and calculate. Do not ask what it means, just turn the crank and trust the answers. And the answers kept coming, perfect every time, which made it very easy to never ask the deeper question. But the deeper question never went away. It only waited. Think for a moment about how strange it is that we ever made peace with this at all. A scientist in any other field who told you that his theory worked perfectly, but that he had no idea what it meant, would be sent back to his desk. Yet in quantum mechanics, this became respectable, even fashionable, a badge of toughness. Do not ask what the wave function is. Do not ask what happens between the equation and the click of the detector. Just compute and collect your perfect answer and go home. Generations of brilliant people were trained to treat the deepest question in their science as bad manners, and you can understand why. The predictions were so good, the technology that flowed from them so real, the transistors and lasers and the screen you are reading this on, all of it built on these equations, that it felt almost ungrateful to keep asking what it all meant. The theory was paying its rent. Why interrogate the tenant? But a debt that goes unpaid does not disappear. It waits. And the debt here is the simplest question a curious child would ask. If the little thing is in many states at once, and the big world is only ever in one, then what happens in between? And why has no one shown me the rule? Every honest physicist has felt the weight of that unpaid question at some point, usually late, usually alone, when the calculating is done and the strangeness creeps back in. The triumph of the predictions never silenced it. It only let people postpone it. We are not going to postpone it any longer. So here is where we stand, at the end of our first descent, with the open door of the mystery in front of us. A single particle, left alone, lives in many states at once, and we have the stripes of light to prove it. The moment the world takes note of which state it is in, the manyness disappears, and a single fact remains. We have no agreed explanation for that disappearance. The most common story says that looking causes it, that observation collapses possibility into a single outcome, and that story has a crack running straight through its foundation, because it makes the watcher more important than the watched, and never says why. What if that story is wrong? Not wrong in its predictions, which are flawless, but wrong in its picture of what is happening. What if nothing collapses? What if the many never become one at all? What if every one of those possibilities, every path through every slit, every door in the hallway, is just as real after you look as it was before, and the only thing that changes is which one you find yourself standing in? That is the thread we are going to follow now. It begins, oddly enough, with a cat in a box that no one is allowed to open. And by the time we are done, the word reality is not going to mean what it meant when you sat down. I promise you that. So stay with me and let us open the box. In the year 1935, a physicist named Erwin Schrodinger sat down and invented the most famous cat in the history of science, and he did it because he was annoyed. This is the part people forget. The cat was not meant to be a wonder. It was meant to be an insult. Schrodinger was one of the people who had built quantum mechanics with his own hands. The central equation of the whole field carries his name, and yet he looked at where the theory seemed to be leading, this business of superposition and collapse and looking causing reality, and he found it absurd. So he designed a thought experiment to show just how absurd, by dragging the strangeness of the very small up into the world of the very large, into a world with a living animal in it. He expected everyone to recoil. Instead, they kept the cat and lost the point. Here is the box. Inside it, Schrodinger places a cat, alive and well. He places a small amount of a radioactive substance, just a tiny bit, calibrated so that over the course of an hour there is exactly a 50% chance that one atom of it decays. He places a device that detects radioactive decay. If that device ever senses a single atom breaking down, it triggers a hammer. The hammer shatters a vial of poison, and the poison kills the cat. Then he closes the lid. No windows, no way to see in. The whole apparatus is sealed shut, the cat and the atom and the poison together in the dark. Now we wait 1 hour, and we ask the only question that matters. Is the cat alive or dead? Common sense answers immediately. The cat is one or the other. Either the atom decayed and the cat is dead, or it did not and the cat is fine, and the only thing we lack is the knowledge of which the cat knows. The cat is in there having a definite experience of being alive or having stopped being anything at all. Our ignorance is just ignorance, like the spinning coin. That is common sense. But follow the quantum rules honestly, the very rules we watch the electron obey, and you get a different answer, and it is a horrifying one. The fate of the cat is chained to the fate of a single atom, and a single atom left unobserved does not decay or not decay. It enters a superposition of decayed and not decayed, both at once, both real, just like the electron passing through both slits. The atom is the spinning coin that genuinely has not landed. And if the atom is in a superposition of decayed and not decayed, then the detector is in a superposition of triggered and not triggered, and the hammer is in a superposition of fallen and raised. and the poison is in a superposition of released and sealed, and the cat, the warm-breathing animal in the box, is dragged by an unbroken chain into a superposition of dead and alive. Not hidden behind a curtain, one or the other, both. A living dead cat smeared across two states, waiting in the dark. That was Schrodinger's complaint. "Look what your theory does," he was saying. "Take it seriously, and it does not stay politely down among the atoms where you cannot see it misbehaving. It climbs the chain, link by link, until it puts a real cat into an impossible condition." He thought this was a reduction to nonsense, a proof that something in the standard story had to be wrong. And he was onto something genuine. But the universe did not grant him the easy escape he wanted, because nobody has ever been able to find the place where the chain is supposed to break. That is the whole problem. That is the measurement problem. And it is worth saying its name slowly, because it has haunted physics for 100 years, and it has never been put to rest. The measurement problem is this. The equations of quantum mechanics describe how a superposition grows and spreads and evolves over time, and they do it beautifully, smoothly, with perfect predictability. An undisturbed quantum system just keeps layering its possibilities according to the math, and the math never, on its own, picks a winner. Left to itself, the equation describes the atom as decayed and not decayed, the cat as dead and alive, forever, with no collapse anywhere in sight. The mathematics contains no moment where the many become one. And yet when we actually open the box, we never find a cat that is both. We find a living cat, or we find a dead one. Every single time. One outcome. So the question is brutally simple to state. If the equations only ever describe superpositions, and reality only ever shows us single outcomes, what happens in between? What converts the and into an or? What turns the smear into the fact? The standard answer of the 20th century, the one we met at the end of our first descent, was collapse. At the moment of measurement, the story goes, the superposition collapses. The cat is dead and alive right up until you open the lid, and the act of observation forces the universe to throw away every possibility but one. You look, and the and snaps into an or, and the cat is suddenly and only dead, or suddenly and only alive, and the other possibility simply ceases, as if it had never been weighed at all. For a working physicist trying to predict an experiment, this rule is enough. You evolve the superposition with the equation, then at the moment of measurement you apply collapse by hand, you compute the odds of each outcome, and the numbers come out right. The cat is dead half the time. The detectors click where they should. The theory wins. But step back and look at what you have actually assembled, and it falls apart in your hands. For one thing, collapse appears nowhere in the equations. It is not part of the smooth quantum evolution. It is a second rule, bolted on from outside, that interrupts the first rule at a moment we cannot define, by a process we cannot describe. The beautiful equation says superpositions never collapse. Then we say, except when we measure them, at which point they do. But why? By what mechanism? The standard story has no mechanism. It just asserts that collapse happens and moves on. For another thing, the rule depends entirely on this word, measurement, and nobody can say what a measurement is. When does the chain break? Does the atom collapse the moment it meets the detector? Then why does the electron in the double slit not collapse the moment it meets the slit? Does it need a human being to look? Then was the universe one giant, uncollapsed superposition for billions of years before any eyes existed to observe it. Did the first creature to open its eyes collapse the entire history of the cosmos in a single glance? Does the observer need to be conscious? Then, what is consciousness doing in the laws of physics, in equations about atoms and forces where it has no business being? Every attempt to define measurement either draws an arbitrary line through nature or smuggles human awareness into the foundations of reality, and neither of those is a thing a serious theory should have to do. The crack we noticed earlier is not a hairline. It runs all the way down. There is a famous sharpening of this problem that makes the absurdity impossible to ignore, and it is worth walking through because it shows just how slippery the word measurement really is. Imagine that instead of opening the box yourself, you send a friend into the laboratory to open it while you wait outside. Your friend opens the lid, looks, and sees a definite cat, alive or dead. For your friend, the matter is settled, but you are still outside, and you have not yet learned the result. From your point of view, following the equations honestly, the box and the cat and now your friend have all become one large quantum system, and that whole system, including your friend's brain and your friend's certainty, is in a superposition. There is a branch where your friend saw a living cat, and a branch where your friend saw a dead one, and from outside the room, you must describe your friend as being in both states at once, a friend who is simultaneously relieved and grieving. Then you open the door and ask, and only then, for you, does it seem to settle. So whose observation collapsed the cat? The friend's or yours? If the friend's look was enough, why does the math, from your perspective, still describe the friend as superposed? If your look was the one that mattered, then you have just made yourself the center of reality, the one whose glance finally makes things real, which is exactly the kind of arrogance the standard story keeps accidentally committing. You can push this outward forever. Maybe someone is watching you. Maybe the whole planet is a quantum system waiting for some cosmic observer to settle it. The chain of who collapses whom has no natural end, no rung where you can confidently say, here, this is where possibility finally becomes fact. The harder you press on the word measurement, the more it dissolves in your hands, until you are forced to admit that nobody has ever been able to say in the language of physics itself what counts as one. This is why the standard picture, for all its calculating power, has always carried a quiet embarrassment at its core. It was assembled in the 1920s by a brilliant circle of physicists, and it became known as the Copenhagen interpretation, after the city where its leading figure worked. And its real content, stripped of the careful phrasing, was a decision not to look too hard. There is the quantum world of the small, where superpositions live, and there is the classical world of our instruments and our eyes, where things are definite, and somewhere between them a measurement happens and collapse occurs. And you are simply not to ask exactly where that boundary sits or what physical process draws it. For practical work, it was enough. For understanding, it was a locked door with a sign on it that read, "Do not open." And the cat was Schrodinger's way of rattling that door, of saying, if you will not tell me where the boundary is, then I will put a living animal across it and make you watch what your evasion implies. Now, modern physics did find one piece of the puzzle, and it is real and important, and it has a name worth knowing. It is called decoherence. Here is the idea. Gently. The reason we can do the double slit experiment with a lone electron is that we keep it perfectly isolated. Nothing touches it on its way through the slits. Its superposition stays clean and private, and so the two paths can meet and interfere and paint their stripes. But the cat is not isolated. The cat is enormous, by quantum standards, made of uncountable particles, and it is constantly bathed in warmth and light and the ceaseless jostling of air molecules. Every one of those countless interactions is, in effect, a tiny measurement. The environment is always touching the cat, always taking note, always tangling itself up with the cat's condition. And what decoherence shows, with rigorous mathematics, is that the moment a superposition gets entangled with a vast, messy environment like that, the delicate interference between its possibilities becomes effectively impossible to ever see again. The two branches of the cat, the living one and the dead one, stop being able to cross and cancel the way the electrons' two paths did. They decohere. They split apart into separate, non-interfering stories. Decoherence explains, very precisely, why large warm things never show us their quantum stripes, why your coffee cup stays in one place, why the moon stays where you left it. It tells you why the world looks classical and solid even though it is quantum underneath. That is an enormous achievement, and it is settled science. But here is the thing you must understand, because it is the trap that catches almost everyone. Decoherence explains why we never see the superposition. It does not explain why there is only one outcome. Those are different claims, and the gap between them is the entire mystery. Decoherence takes the cat's superposition of alive and dead and separates it cleanly into two branches that can no longer touch each other or interfere. Good, but it leaves both branches there. The math of decoherence does not delete the dead cat to leave the living one. It does not collapse anything. It just sorts the one tangled superposition into two tidy, sealed, mutually invisible stories, the living cat in one and the dead cat in the other, each one now unable to feel the other's presence. Decoherence gives you two cats in two branches. It never tells you to throw one away. So the deepest version of the problem is still standing, and decoherence has actually sharpened it rather than solved it. We now know precisely how a clean quantum superposition turns into two cleanly separated branches. What we have no honest reason for is the next step, the step where we cross out one branch and declare the other to be the only reality. The equations never take that step. Decoherence never takes that step. Only the old collapse rule takes that step. And we have just seen that the collapse rule is a mechanism-free definition, free assertion, bolted onto the side of a theory that does not need it and never produced it. Let me say plainly what has happened, because it is the hinge of this entire story. We started with a theory whose equations describe a world that never stops superposing, a world where possibilities pile up and coexist and never, on their own, resolve into single facts. We added, by hand, a rule that says they resolve anyway whenever we look. We could never say what looking is. We could never find the rule in the math. We could never locate the boundary, not in the detector, not in the friend, not in the eye, not anywhere. And then decoherence came along and explained, with gorgeous precision, why the superpositions hide from us, why the world looks classical, why the cat seems to be one thing. But decoherence handed us two cats in two sealed branches and quietly declined to kill either one. The deletion, the crossing out, the moment where one branch is chosen and the rest are thrown away, was never in the equations and is still not in the equations. It lives only in the bolted-on rule, and the bolted-on rule has no mechanism, no boundary, and no home. Most physicists, for most of a century, looked at that situation and decided to keep the rule anyway because it gave the right odds and because the alternative seemed too strange to entertain. They kept collapse the way you keep a cracked foundation, by not looking down. But the crack does not care whether you look. It is still there, holding up the whole house, an assumption nobody can justify, doing the one job the equations refuse to do. And once you have really seen the crack, once you have followed the chain from the atom to the friend to yourself and found no place where the magic is allowed to happen, you cannot unsee it. You start to wonder whether the rule was ever necessary at all, or whether it was only ever a comfort, a way of making the equations say the modest thing we wanted them to say instead of the enormous thing they were actually saying. So let me ask you to do something uncomfortable. Let me ask you to consider, just for a moment, that we have been adding a step that was never there. We see one outcome, so we assume one outcome is all there is, and we invent collapse to explain how the others got deleted. But what if nothing gets deleted? What if the equations have been telling us the literal truth this whole time, smoothly, without exception, and the only mistake was ours, the mistake of insisting that the and had to become an or? What if the cat really is both, in two branches that have simply lost the ability to touch? What if, when you open the box and find a living cat, the dead cat did not vanish? What if it is simply somewhere your branch can no longer reach, every bit as real as you are, with a version of you standing over it, grieving, certain that the living cat is the one that disappeared? Notice how much trouble disappears the instant you allow that. The undefined measurement, gone, because nothing special happens when you look. You simply entangle with the system like everything else does. The vanishing boundary between quantum and classical, gone, because there is no boundary. Only the smooth growth of one wave function and the steady sealing off of branches by decoherence. The smuggled observer, gone. Because you are no longer a magical agent who collapses reality by glancing at it, just another physical system caught up in the same branching as the cat. Every one of the embarrassments we have spent this whole descent uncovering dissolves at once. And it dissolves not because we added a clever fix, but because we stopped insisting on the one thing the equations never said. The price, of course, is the dead cat that does not go away. But ask yourself, honestly, which is the stranger thing to believe? That a branch full of real things quietly persists where you cannot see it, or that a definite rule you can neither find nor define reaches into the world at moments you cannot specify and deletes whole realities to leave you the one you happen to occupy. Stated that way, it is not at all obvious which picture is the modest one. Hold that thought. Do not let it frighten you yet. It is going to take a particular kind of person to look at the equations and refuse to add the missing step, to say out loud that the and was never an or, that the cat is both, and the worlds are both, and we are both. That person existed. He was 24 years old, he was a graduate student, and almost no one believed him. His name was Hugh Everett III, and in the mid-1950s he was a graduate student at Princeton. Sharp, restless, fond of game theory and good arguments, and, by several accounts, a fair amount of sherry. He was not a mystic. He was the opposite of a mystic. He was a hard-nosed logician who liked to take a system of rules and follow it to wherever it actually led, without flinching, without softening the conclusion to make it more comfortable. And when he turned that temperament on quantum mechanics, he noticed something that the giants of the field had been carefully stepping around for 30 years. He noticed that the collapse was unnecessary, not just ugly, unnecessary. You could throw it away and lose nothing, and what remained would be simpler, cleaner, and far more honest. The only cost was that you had to accept what the equations had been quietly saying the entire time. Let me put Everett's move as plainly as it can be put, because it is one of the great quiet acts of intellectual courage in modern science, and its power is in its restraint. He did not add anything to quantum mechanics. Read that again, because almost everyone gets it backwards. People imagine that the man who gave us infinite parallel worlds must have piled some wild new machinery onto physics, some baroque invention to manufacture all those universes. He did the reverse. He took something away. He took away collapse. He looked at the theory and saw that it had two rules awkwardly stitched together: the smooth equation that builds superpositions and the ugly collapse that destroys them. And he asked the obvious question that no one had dared to make their life's work. What happens if we just delete the second rule? What if there is only the smooth equation, only the universal wave function evolving forever, without interruption, and no collapse anywhere, ever, at all? This is what he called the relative state formulation, and later it would be given the grander name, the many worlds interpretation. But the seed of it is that single subtraction. Keep the part of quantum mechanics we know works perfectly, the part that has never once failed a test. Delete the part we bolted on by hand, the part with no mechanism and no definition, and no home in the math. See what is left. What is left is staggering, and Everett did not blink. If the wave function never collapses, then when you measure the electron in the double slit, the superposition does not pick a slit. It cannot. There is nothing in the equations that would make it. Instead, the superposition simply spreads to include you. Before the measurement, the electron went left and went right at once. After the measurement, the whole system, electron plus you, becomes electron went left, and you saw it go left. Layered over electron went right, and you saw it go right. Both terms, both real, both following from the equation with no step removed. You do not collapse the electron, you join it. You become part of the superposition. The world does not narrow to one outcome. It widens to include a version of you for every outcome. And the same thing happens with the cat. Open the box without collapse, and you do not force the cat into one state. You enter a superposition yourself. There comes to be a branch in which the cat is dead, and a version of you stands there grieving, and a branch in which the cat is alive, and a version of you sighs in relief, and both branches are equally real, both written into the single uncollapsed wave function of the universe. And neither one can see or touch the other, because, as decoherence taught us, once those branches separate, they lose the ability to interfere. The cat was never one or the other. The cat was both, and so, from that moment, are you. This is the conclusion that earns the theory its name. Every outcome that can happen does happen, not in some poetic sense. In the most literal sense, the equations allow. Every time the universe faces a quantum fork, every time a superposition meets something large enough to record it, reality does not choose a branch and discard the rest. It takes every branch. The world does not collapse into one of its possibilities. It divides into all of them. And because these quantum forks are happening constantly, ceaselessly, everywhere, in every atom of every star and every cell of your body, the number of branches is not large, it is beyond large. It is a tree of realities splitting and splitting and splitting again, every fraction of every second, with no branch ever pruned away. Now you understand why the theory is called many worlds. And you also understand the thing that most descriptions get wrong. These are not separate universes that started independently somewhere far away. They are not bubbles in some foam of space. They are all branches of a single object, the one universal wave function, the one unbroken mathematical description of everything. They were one. They share a past, run the tree backwards, and the branches converge. You and the version of you in the next branch over were the same person an instant ago, before some tiny quantum event nudged the two of you onto different limbs of the same growing tree. The worlds are not far apart in space. They are right here, woven through the very air around you, separated not by distance, but by the simple fact that they can no longer touch. There was one more move Everett made that deserves its own moment, because it is the part that answers the obvious complaint before you can even raise it. The complaint is this: if I am really splitting into many versions, why do I feel like one continuous person? Why does my experience seem so seamless, so single, so definitely mine? Everett's answer was to do something almost no physicist had been willing to do. He put the observer inside the equations. He treated the person doing the measuring not as a magical outside agent who stands apart from physics and triggers collapse, but as just another physical system, an arrangement of atoms obeying the same wave function as everything else, a machine that records, that remembers, that processes. And once you treat the observer that way, the seamlessness explains itself. In each branch there is a version of the observer with a perfectly consistent, perfectly continuous chain of memories. The version who saw the cat alive remembers a coherent past leading up to a living cat. The version who saw it dead remembers a coherent past leading up to a dead one. Neither version has any access to the other. Neither feels divided, because within each branch, nothing is divided. Each is a whole person with a whole memory, utterly convinced of being the only one, precisely because the branch they inhabit contains no evidence of the others. You feel single not because you are single, but because a branch is, by its nature, a place where you can only ever find one version of yourself. This was the genuine stroke of genius, and it is why the theory does not need to explain away your sense of being one person. It predicts it. A self made of atoms riding the uncollapsed wave function would necessarily feel exactly the way you feel right now, singular and continuous and certain, no matter how many times it had branched, because the feeling of singularity is just what it is like to be one branch looking out from the inside. There is no extra ingredient required, no special account of consciousness, no fudge. The math gives you a world of branches, and in every branch it gives you a person who feels undivided, and that person is you, in every one of them, each equally real, each equally sure. You can feel how clean this is. The measurement problem, the thing that haunted physics for a century, the question of what turns the and into an or, simply dissolves. It dissolves because the answer is that nothing does. The and never becomes an or. It only ever looks that way from the inside of one branch. When you open the box and see a living cat and conclude that the dead cat possibility vanished, you are making the same mistake the whole field made for 50 years. The dead cat did not vanish. You did, from its point of view. You are simply the version that ended up on the living branch, and you mistake your own single thread for the whole of reality. The way a person walking one path through a forest might forget that the other paths are still there behind the trees, walked by other travelers, just out of sight. So why, if it is so clean, did this not sweep the world the moment Everett wrote it down? Here the story turns human and a little sad. Everett finished his doctoral thesis on this idea in the late 1950s, under the supervision of John Wheeler, one of the most respected physicists alive. Wheeler admired the work, but was also deeply nervous about it, because Wheeler revered Niels Bohr, and Bohr was the towering authority behind the standard collapse picture, the grand old man of quantum mechanics, whose word carried the weight of scripture. Wheeler took Everett's ideas to Copenhagen to discuss them with Bohr and his circle, and the reception was cold to the point of dismissal. To Bohr's people, the very questions Everett was asking were not real questions. They had decided long ago that you do not ask what the wave function is really doing when no one looks. You calculate, you predict, you stop. Everett's insistence on taking the math literally struck them as naive, almost as a category error, the work of a young man who had not yet learned what one was permitted to wonder about. Everett's thesis was quietly trimmed down before publication. Its boldest language softened, its strangest claims muted, so as not to offend the establishment it challenged. And the response to even that watered-down version was mostly silence. The idea did not catch. It was not refuted, which is the important thing, the thing that should make you sit up. No one ever found an error in it. No experiment ever contradicted it. It was simply ignored, set aside as the unserious speculation of a student who did not know better. And Hugh Everett, brilliant and proud and only in his 20s, read that silence clearly. He understood that the physics community had no interest in what he had found. So he did something almost no great mind ever does. He left. He walked away from theoretical physics entirely, took his talents into defense work and operations research and the cold calculus of nuclear strategy, made a comfortable living, and very rarely spoke about the worlds again. He had handed the field the most important idea of his life, and the field had handed it back, and he did not beg. It would take more than a decade for a physicist named Bryce DeWitt to rediscover the work, to give it the vivid name Many Worlds, and to start the slow process of dragging it back into the light. By then, the intellectual climate had shifted. Decoherence was beginning to be understood, which made the branching far easier to take seriously, because now there was a precise mechanism for why the branches separate and stop interfering. A new generation of physicists, less in awe of the old Copenhagen authorities, was willing to ask the forbidden questions again. And slowly, over the following decades, Everett's deletion of collapse went from heresy to one of the genuinely respected interpretations of quantum mechanics, held today by a serious and growing number of working physicists and philosophers of physics. It is not a fringe idea. It is not settled either. It sits among a small handful of honest contenders for what quantum mechanics is actually telling us. And among those contenders, it has the singular virtue of adding nothing and explaining the measurement problem by simply refusing to invent it. It is worth pausing on why the climate changed, because it was not sentiment that rescued Everett's idea. It was the slow accumulation of reasons to take it seriously. Decoherence was the largest of these. Once physicists understood, in rigorous detail, how a superposition entangles with its environment and separates into branches that can no longer interfere, the branching stopped sounding like science fiction and started sounding like a description of a process they could actually calculate. Everett had asserted that the worlds split. Decoherence showed the machinery of the splitting, the precise way the strands lose contact. The two ideas fit together like a key and a lock, and together they were far harder to dismiss than either had been alone. There was also a growing discomfort with the alternatives. The more carefully people examined the old collapse picture, the more clearly they saw the cracks we have already traced, the undefined measurement, the vanishing boundary, the smuggled observer. Other interpretations were proposed, some ingenious, some adding hidden machinery to the theory, some adding genuine physical collapse as a new law of nature to be tested. Each had its strengths and its costs. And against that field, Everett's offering had one stark advantage that would not go away. It added nothing. It changed not a single equation. It introduced no new particles, No new forces, no new laws, no new constants. It asked only that you stop crossing out the branches, the math already contained. Whatever you thought of the conclusion, you could not accuse it of being baroque. It was the most conservative possible reading of the equations, and its only extravagance was honesty about what those equations said. That honesty came at a price that was paid, in the end, mostly by one man. Everett himself did not live to see most of this. He died in 1982, not yet 50, his health worn down by years of hard living. He never returned to physics. By the accounts of those who knew him, he believed in his theory to the end, calmly, without bitterness, the way you might believe a thing you had proven to yourself and no longer needed anyone else to confirm. There is a quiet dignity in that, and also a real loss, the loss of all the work he might have done if the door had not been shut in his face when he was young. He had looked at the equations longer and more honestly than almost anyone, and he had seen the worlds in them, and he had been right, or at least not wrong, and he had to carry that mostly alone. There is a detail from late in his life that has stayed with many people who learn this story. Everett was, by his own logic, committed to a peculiar kind of view about his own death. If every possible outcome of every quantum event is realized in some branch, then for any moment where you might survive or might not, there is always a branch where you survive. He is said to have taken a certain dry comfort in this, the thought that some version of him would always continue, somewhere along the tree. Whether that is a sound way to read the theory is hotly disputed, and we will come back to the gentler and more careful version of what the branches can and cannot promise. But it tells you something about the man. He did not hold this idea at arm's length as a clever formal exercise. He believed it down to the bone, lived inside it, let it shape how he faced the one fact every person must face. He had followed the equations into a strange country, and rather than turn back at the border, he made his home there. When he died, his instructions were that his remains be discarded with the trash, a final gesture of indifference to the kind of meaning most people reach for. It is a bleak detail, and easy to read as despair, but you can also read it as the consistency of a man who genuinely believed that this branch was only one thread among countless others, that significance was not concentrated in any single ending. He had made his peace with being one version. He did not need this one to be the whole story, because he had proven to himself, on paper, that it never was. So let us state his conclusion now, plainly, stripped of all hedging, the way he would have wanted it stated. The universe is not choosing. When you face a moment with more than one possible outcome, reality does not select one and erase the others. It keeps them all. It splits. Every branch that the equations permit becomes an actual branch with actual things in it, actual cats, actual electrons, actual people. And one of the things in those branches, in every single one of them, is a version of you. That is not a metaphor, and it is not a feeling. It is what falls out of the most successful equations in the history of science, the moment you stop crossing out the parts you find uncomfortable. And notice, before we go on, what kind of claim this is, and what kind it is not. It is not a claim that the equations are different from what everyone learned. They are the same equations, the ones in every textbook, the ones that build the modern world. It is not a claim that some new experiment overturned the old physics. No experiment was needed, because nothing was added that an experiment could test. It is a claim about reading, about taking the most accurate description we have ever written and refusing, finally, to cross out the parts that make us uncomfortable. That is the whole of Everett's revolution. He read the equations literally. He let them say the enormous thing they had always been saying. And the enormous thing is that the universe keeps every outcome, that it does not choose, that for every fork it takes all the roads, and that you, riding one of those roads, are one of countless versions, all equally entitled to your name. The question now is how? How does a single world divide into many? How can you be splitting constantly and never feel a thing? That is where we go next. Let us deal with the obvious objection first, the one you have probably been holding since the cat. If the world is splitting constantly, if a fresh copy of reality buds off every time an atom does anything, then where on earth do all these worlds go? The universe is not getting visibly more crowded. Your kitchen is not filling up with duplicate kitchens. You have never once felt yourself divide, so either the splitting is not really happening, the objection goes, or it would have to leave some trace, and it leaves none. This is the right question. And the answer is one of the most beautiful and most counterintuitive things in all of physics. So let us take it slowly. Start by correcting the picture in your head. When people hear branching, they imagine a single world that suddenly tears in two, like a cell dividing, two whole universes peeling apart with a seam down the middle. That image is doing you a disservice. Nothing tears. Nothing duplicates from outside. There is, and there only ever was, one thing, the universal wave function. One vast mathematical object that contains everything, every particle, every field, every possibility, all of it, evolving smoothly according to the one equation that never collapses. The branches are not new universes added on top of that object. The branches are structures within it. The way two ripples crossing a pond are not two new ponds, but two patterns in the one body of water. Nothing is created. The single wave function simply develops more structure, more distinct, separated strands inside the one thing it has always been. Now, the word that makes this physical, the word we have already met, is decoherence, and here is where it does its real work. Think again about why the lone electron in the double slit can show its stripes. It can interfere with itself because its two paths are isolated and clean, untouched by anything, so the went left part and the went right part can come back together and cross. Interference is possible only when the branches can still touch. And what decoherence tells us, with full mathematical rigor, is that the moment a quantum possibility gets entangled with a large, warm, messy environment, the chance of those branches ever touching again does not merely shrink, it collapses towards zero so fast and so completely that for all practical and all physical purposes, it is gone forever. Consider what that means for anything bigger than a stray particle. The cat is made of something like 1 billion billion particles, each one constantly colliding with air, soaking in heat, scattering light. The instant the cat's fate entangles with even one of those, and then a second, and then a trillion, the living branch and the dead branch get woven into so vast and so chaotic a web of correlations that the odds of them ever interfering again are smaller than any number you have ever had reason to write down. The two branches do not just drift apart. They become, in the only sense that matters, perfectly sealed off from each other. No experiment in the living branch can ever detect the dead one. No signal can pass between them. They share a past. They share the same underlying wave function, and they have lost, completely and permanently, the ability to affect one another in any way at all. That sealing is the branching. That is all branching is. not a tearing of worlds, a loss of contact between strands of the one world that can no longer reach across to touch. This is why you never feel yourself split. There is no sensation of division because from the inside of any one branch, nothing happens to you. The version of you that saw the cat alive has a complete, continuous, unbroken set of memories and experiences. So does the version that saw it dead. Neither one feels like a copy. Neither one feels like the original, because there is no original. There are simply two equally real continuations, each utterly convinced it is the one true you, each unable to sense the other standing one branch away. You would feel a split only if you could somehow stand outside the wave function and watch the branches separate. But you can never be outside it. You are made of it. You are always inside one branch looking out. And from in here, branching feels like nothing at all. It feels like an ordinary moment in which one ordinary thing happened. It feels exactly like your life. Let me make the constancy of it visceral, because this is the part that resets your sense of the world. The branching is not a rare laboratory event that requires a physicist and a cat and a vial of poison. Quantum events are the substrate of everything. Every chemical reaction in every cell of your body involves quantum processes with more than one possible outcome. Every photon of sunlight that strikes your skin either scatters this way or that. Every nerve signal, every molecule of air rebounding off every surface, sits on a foundation of quantum possibility that, under Everett's reading, is forever branching. Which means that in the time it has taken to read this sentence, the strand of reality you call yours has separated from an unfathomable number of other strands, each containing a version of you who is, right now, reading this same sentence in a room almost identical to yours, having lived a life almost identical to yours, differing by some quantum whisper you would never notice. You are not on the verge of branching. You are branching. It is happening as you breathe, quietly, beneath all sensation, the most ordinary and most constant process in the cosmos. Let me linger on why you feel nothing, because it is the part that people find hardest to accept emotionally, even once they accept it logically. We are used to the idea that big changes announce themselves. A door slams, a glass breaks, a decision is made, and you feel the weight of it. So the notion that reality itself is dividing constantly, all around you and through you, and that this colossal process is perfectly silent, seems almost impossible. Surely you would notice, but think about what noticing would require. To notice the split, some part of you would have to register both branches, to hold the living cat and the dead cat in one mind and compare them. And that is exactly the thing that cannot happen, because the moment your mind entangles with the cat, your mind branches too. There is no version of you that straddles both outcomes. There is only a version in each, and each one finds, in its own branch, a single definite cat and a single definite memory, and not the faintest trace of the other. The split is silent, not by accident, but by necessity. The only mind that could hear it is precisely the mind that the splitting divides. You are always, structurally, on one side of every division, and from one side, a division is invisible. There is a useful image for this, imperfect, like all images, but worth holding. Picture a river that comes to a place where the land divides it into two channels. Stand in the water and let yourself be carried, and you do not feel the river split. You simply find yourself flowing down one channel, the banks sliding past, The current smooth, no seam, no jolt, nothing to tell you that elsewhere the same river is carrying the same water down a different course. The split is real. The other channel is real, full of real water flowing somewhere you will never go. But your experience is only ever of the one channel that holds you. That is what branching is like from the inside. Not a tearing, a smooth carrying onward down one of the many courses the one river takes, with no way ever to feel the others. Now, let us face the harder objections, the ones a careful skeptic raises, because the theory deserves to be tested and not just admired. The first is about energy. If the universe is constantly multiplying into countless branches, are we not creating matter and energy out of nothing, conjuring whole worlds from thin air, breaking the deepest law in physics? The answer returns us to the corrected picture. No new matter is made, because no new universe is made. There is one wave function, and its total content is conserved exactly as the equations demand. The branches are not additional stuff. They are divisions of the one stuff, finer and finer distinctions within a single object whose total never changes. Think of a great symphony splitting into separate melodic lines. You have not added music. You have revealed structure that was always implicit in the one score. The energy books balance perfectly because nothing was ever added. The wave function only ever rearranges what it already is. The second hard objection is the deepest, and an honest account has to admit it is still argued over. It is about probability. If every outcome happens in some branch, then what could it possibly mean to say a coin has a 50% chance of landing heads, or that a radioactive atom is more likely to survive the hour than to decay? If both the likely thing and the unlikely thing both definitely occur, each in its own branch, where do the odds come from? This is a real and serious puzzle, and it is the place where many worlds has had to work hardest. The response, developed carefully over decades, is roughly this. The branches are not all equal in their weight within the wave function. The mathematics assigns each branch a measure, a kind of thickness, and the thick branches are the probable ones, and the thin branches are the improbable ones. And it can be shown through arguments about what a rational person inside the wave function should expect to experience, that a self who does not know which branch they will find themselves continuing into should place their bets exactly according to those weights, which is to say, exactly according to the ordinary rules of quantum probability that experiments confirm. Whether this fully dissolves the puzzle is genuinely debated among very smart people, and I am not going to pretend to you that it is airtight, because the honest thing, the thing this whole story has been built on, is to not bolt on comfortable answers where the real ones are still being worked out. But the predictions, the actual numbers you would measure, come out matching the standard theory exactly. Whatever probability means in a branching universe, it gives the right odds at the bench every time. There is a third objection, subtler than the others, and it is worth meeting because it is the one careful philosophers press hardest. It goes like this. The wave function can be sliced up in many different ways. Why should it divide into branches along the lines of living cat and dead cat, or this position and that position, rather than along some bizarre combination of states that would never correspond to anything we recognize? What picks out the particular set of branches we actually experience? The ones that look like a definite world with definite objects in definite places. If nothing picks them out, the worry goes, then the branching is not really there. It is just one arbitrary way of carving up a smooth mathematical object, no more real than any other slicing. And here, once again, It is decoherence that answers, which is part of why decoherence turned out to be the quiet hero of this whole story. The branches are not chosen arbitrarily. They are selected by the physics itself, by the way systems actually interact with their environments. When the cat entangles with the air and the light and the warmth, it is the cat's position, its aliveness or deadness, that gets recorded redundantly all over the surrounding world, copied into countless scattered photons and jostling molecules. The bizarre combinations do not get copied that way. They smear out and lose all definition almost instantly. What survives, what gets stamped over and over into the environment until it becomes a stable and shareable fact, is precisely the familiar set of outcomes, the ones that look like a normal world. The branches we experience are the branches the environment makes robust. We do not impose them on the wave function by an act of arbitrary slicing. The dynamics carve them out, the same dynamics that govern everything else, with no extra rule required. And that last point deserves to be sat with, because it is the thing that protects this whole strange edifice from being mere fantasy. Many worlds is not a different theory from standard quantum mechanics. It makes the same predictions, down to the last decimal, for every experiment anyone has ever performed or could perform. It has to, because it is just standard quantum mechanics with the collapse rule removed. And the collapse rule never affected the predictions anyway, it only ever affected the story we told about them. So no experiment can currently distinguish a universe that genuinely branches from one that somehow collapses, which is exactly why this remains an interpretation, a question of what the equations mean, rather than a settled fact. People sometimes hear that and feel cheated, as though an idea you cannot test is no idea at all. But turn it around. The branches are not an extravagant addition you have to find evidence for. They are what you are left with when you stop adding the collapse you could never find evidence for either. The burden was always backwards. The worlds were never the thing that needed justifying. The deletion of all but one of them was. It helps to make the constancy concrete one more time, because the human mind keeps wanting to file branching under rare and dramatic when the truth is that it is relentless and mundane. Right now, in your own body, somewhere around 100 trillion cells are running countless molecular processes a second, many of them resting on quantum events with more than one possible result. Outside your window, every shaft of sunlight is a torrent of photons, each facing forks of scatter or absorb. The screen in front of you works because engineers learned to herd electrons through materials governed by exactly these probabilities. You are not occasionally near a quantum fork. You are made of them, surrounded by them, soaked in them, and under Everett's reading, each one is a place where the wave function is dividing, quietly, with no announcement, no sensation, no seam. By the time you finish this sentence, the version of you reading it has parted ways with a number of nearly identical versions, so large that no honest comparison exists. More than the stars, more than the atoms in any object you could point to, an unspeakable fan of yous spreading out from this single shared instant. And here is a thought that turns the whole thing from speculation towards something almost tangible. We are now building machines that depend on keeping superpositions alive on purpose. A quantum computer works precisely by protecting delicate superpositions from decoherence long enough to let many possibilities be processed at once before the answer is read out. Every advance in that technology is, in effect, a demonstration of how real and how fragile these superposed possibilities are, how fiercely they must be shielded from the environment that would otherwise branch them apart. The engineers fighting decoherence in a cold quantum processor are wrestling, hands-on, with the very same process that, left unchecked in the wider world, divides reality into branches. They do not need to believe in many worlds to do their work, but their work is a daily, practical reminder that the superpositions are not a fairy tale. They are an engineering problem, real enough to be measured, real enough to be lost, real enough to be the foundation of a new kind of machine. So here is where we have arrived. One wave function, never collapsing, developing endless internal structure as every quantum event entangles with the wider world and seals its outcomes into branches that can no longer touch. No new energy, because nothing is added. No felt sensation of splitting, because you are always inside one strand looking out. No violation of the odds at the laboratory bench, because the weights of the branches reproduce the familiar probabilities exactly. A universe that does not choose, dividing quietly and ceaselessly, with you riding one of its countless strands, having just separated, in the span of these words, from more versions of yourself than there are atoms in your body, every one of them as real and as convinced and as alive as you are. And that is the moment to stop talking about cats and electrons and turn the lens fully now toward the only branch you will ever know from the inside, yours. Because if all of this is true, and the equations have given us no honest reason to think it is not, then it is not just photons and atoms that come in countless copies. It is you. Every choice you have ever agonized over, every door you walked through and every door you did not, every version of your life that could have happened, did happen, is happening, in a branch that split from yours and sealed itself away and carried a version of you off into a life you will never see. That is no longer abstract physics. That is your mourning, your regrets, your road not taken, made suddenly, vertiginously literal. So let us go there, gently, and look at what it means to be one version of a self that has no center and no end. Think back to this morning. There was a moment, small and forgotten already, when you could have done otherwise. Maybe you reached for the alarm and there was a flicker, a half second in which staying in bed and getting up were both alive in you, both possible, before one of them won and the day began. You did not experience that flicker as a fork in reality. You experienced it as nothing, as an ordinary blink in an ordinary morning. But underneath it, in the substrate we have been describing, the neurons that tipped your choice one way rode on quantum processes that could have tipped the other way. And if Everett was right, they did. There is a branch in which you stayed in bed. It is not a fantasy of what might have been. It is a place sealed off from yours, with a version of you in it who is living this morning differently, who made the other choice, who is just as real as the one reading these words, and just as certain that their morning was the only one that happened. Now widen that. The morning is the smallest example. Take every genuine fork your life has ever passed through. The conversation where you almost said the braver thing and did not. The message you nearly sent and deleted. The job you took and the one you turned down. The city you moved to and the one you visited once and never returned to. The person you let walk away and the person you stayed with. Every one of those was a moment where more than one outcome was physically possible, and under the many worlds reading, every one of those outcomes was taken by a version of you in a branch that peeled away from yours and sealed itself shut and went on. The you that said the brave thing exists. The you that sent the message exists. The you that got on the other train, took the other job, kept the other friend. All of them exist, each carrying your name and your face and your memories up to the fork, and a different life after it. There is something almost too large to feel here, so let us slow down and make it small enough to hold. Pick one fork, just one. Think of a single moment in your life when everything could have gone another way, a moment you still return to, where a word was said or not said, where a door opened or closed. You know the one. Everyone has one. Now, understand what the many worlds reading asks you to accept about that moment. It was not a moment where one future was selected and the rest evaporated. It was a moment where the road forked and both roads were walked, and the version of you who walked the other one did not stop existing when you turned away. They kept going. They are still going. While you built the life that followed your choice, they built the life that followed theirs, year by year, and right now, in a branch sealed away from yours by nothing more than the fact that the two of you can no longer touch, they are living the consequence of the choice you did not make, as real as your own breath, wearing your own face grown a little differently. That is a heavy thing to set down in front of a person, and I do not want to rush past it as though it were a clever trick. Sit with one fork until it stops being an abstraction. The point is not to torture yourself with the lives you did not lead. The point is the opposite, though we have to arrive there slowly. The point is that the aching sense you have always carried, the sense that your life was only one of many it could have been, turns out not to be a sad illusion. It turns out to be, on this reading, simply true, and not only true but symmetrical, because every version of you carries the same ache about every version they did not become. There is no thread that escaped the forking. There is no chosen life that got all the roads. And once you really see that, the ache begins, very slowly, to change its character. We will get there. But first we have to be honest about how strange and how vast the thing actually is. This is the philosophical heart of the whole idea, and I want to handle it carefully, because it would be very easy here to slide into something cheap, into a kind of greeting card mysticism about how anything is possible and every dream comes true somewhere. That is not what the physics says, and the difference matters. The branches are not a wish fulfillment machine. They contain every outcome that was physically possible given the laws and the conditions, no more and no less. There is no branch where you flap your arms and fly, because nothing about the quantum state of your arms permits it. The other selves are not living out your fantasies. They are living out your alternatives, the real ones, the ones that hung on a coin that could genuinely have fallen the other way. And that is far stranger and far more sobering than fantasy, because it means the lives you most ache about, the ones that feel like they almost happened, those are exactly the ones most likely to be real, branched off and ongoing, just out of reach. Hold that, because it leads straight into the hardest and most personal question this theory raises. If there are countless versions of you, branching apart at every fork, then which one is the real you? Which one is actually, truly you? And which ones are mere copies? The instinct is to assume there must be an answer, that one of these threads is the genuine article and the rest are imitations, the way a photograph is a copy of a person. But the physics gives that instinct no support at all. And this is the part that quietly rearranges your sense of yourself if you let it. There is no original. There is no central, authentic you from which the others are spun off as lesser copies. When a branch splits, it does not produce one real you and one imposter. It produces two equally real continuations of the single person who existed a moment before, each with a complete and unbroken claim to being you, each remembering the exact same past, neither one more authentic than the other in any way the universe recognizes. You are not the original who keeps spawning duplicates. You are one branch among branches, and so is every other version, all of you equally entitled to the name, none of you at the center, because there is no center. Sit with that, because it is genuinely vertiginous. The self you have always taken to be a single, continuous, solid thing, the one I that has run unbroken through your whole life, turns out to be, on this reading, more like a line traced through a branching tree. Run it backwards, and you are one. Run it forward, and you are many, dividing and dividing, each division producing selves who feel exactly as singular and continuous as you feel right now, every one of them carrying the same conviction you carry, that they are the one who is really here. There is no fact of the matter about which is the true you, because the question assumes a kind of singular soul that the physics simply does not contain. There are only the branches, a vast democracy of selves with no capital, no ruler, no one thread crowned as real, each living its life convinced it is the whole story. It is worth being honest about a darker corner of this idea, because if we skip it, you will feel the omission, and because facing it leads somewhere gentler than you might fear. Some people, following the logic of always some surviving branch, arrive at a chilling thought. If for every dangerous moment there is a branch where you live, then your own thread of experience can only ever continue into branches where you survived, since the branches where you did not contain no you to experience anything. Taken to its conclusion, this suggests a kind of subjective endlessness, a sense in which you can only ever find yourself alive, forever sliding into the narrowing branches where you happen to make it. It is a genuinely unsettling thought, and it has a name in these discussions, and people argue about it with real intensity. But look closely and it falls apart in ways that matter, and the falling apart is a relief. For one thing, survival is almost never all or nothing. The branches do not divide cleanly into alive and gone. They divide into countless gradations of harmed, weakened, diminished, and slowly fading, and the overwhelming weight of the branches where things go wrong lead not to dramatic survival but to ordinary decline. There is no clean thread that skips along only the lucky limbs. For another, the people you love live in branches too, and the version of you that clings to some thin, surviving limb does so in a world where, on most of those limbs, much has already been lost. The fantasy of endless personal survival quietly ignores that the branches you would be surviving into are, for the most part, not branches you would want. The theory does not promise you a charmed life. It promises only that the tree contains everything, the gentle outcomes and the grievous ones alike, and that your thread, like every thread, will wander among both and will one day, in this branch, thin out like every thread does. We will come back, at the very end, to the calmer and truer thing the branches actually offer, which is not endlessness, but something quieter and more bearable. You might expect that to feel like a loss, like a dissolving, and for a moment it can. But stay with it a little longer, because something turns. Notice that even now, before any of this, you were never the same self you were 10 years ago. The cells have replaced themselves, the memories have faded and reshaped. The person who bears your name today would be half a stranger to the person who bore it in childhood. You have always been a process, not a fixed object, a thread of continuity rather than an unchanging thing. The many worlds picture does not destroy the self so much as reveal what it always was, a branching pattern, a story that divides, a thread among threads. It does not take away your singularity. It shows you that your singularity was always the singularity of one path through a wider structure, and that the path is no less yours, no less real, no less precious for the other paths existing alongside it. And here the theme that has shadowed every life finds its strangest reframing: regret, the road not taken. That particular human ache, the one that visits you late at night, the sense that somewhere a better version of your life is being lived by a better version of you who chose more wisely. Many worlds takes that private grief and tells you something almost unbearable. And then, if you turn it just slightly, something almost consoling. The unbearable part is that the road not taken was in fact taken. The wiser version of you is not a fantasy you torture yourself with. They are out there, in a branch, having chosen as you wish you had. The grief was, in a sense, correct all along. But turn it. That version of you is not more real than you, not more the true self, not the original to your copy. They are simply another branch, living another thread, with their own forks ahead of them and their own roads they will fail to take, and their own late nights aching over branches they cannot see. The grass is greener in the other branch, yes, but only because you cannot see that it has its own bare patches. There is no branch that escaped the forking. There is no version of you who got everything right and lives without a single road untaken, because every life in every branch is nothing but a single thread through an infinity of roads it did not walk. The wiser you envies someone too, so the consolation hiding inside the vertigo is this: your regret is not evidence that you failed to live the right life. It is evidence that there were many lives, all of them being lived, and that you, this thread, this you, are living one of them fully, the way every version of you is living theirs fully. None of them the chosen one, all of them simply real. The version who stayed in bed this morning is not the lucky one, they are just another you, with their own ordinary morning, their own small forks, their own faint ache about the version who got up and did something. Even the version of you whose life looks, from the outside, like the one you most wish you had, is not living free of longing. They woke today with their own list of roads not taken, their own quiet certainty that some other self chose more wisely, their own 3 a.m. conviction that the real life is being lived just out of reach. The envy runs in every direction at once, up and down the whole infinite tree, and it never lands on anyone, because there is no one for it to land on. No version sitting at the top who finally got everything and stopped wishing. There is no escaping the structure. There is only being one strand of it, honestly, all the way through. There is a question lurking underneath all of this that deserves to be drawn out into the open, because it troubles people quietly even when they cannot name it. If all these versions of me are equally real, the worry goes, then does anything I feel actually matter, since some other me is feeling the opposite? Does my happiness count for less because a version of me is suffering? Does my kindness mean anything if a version of me chose cruelty? It can feel, for a moment, as though the sheer multiplication of selves drains the color out of any single one of them. The way a word repeated too many times stops sounding like a word. But notice that this worry quietly assumes something false, that experience is a fixed quantity divided among your copies, so that the more of them there are, the thinner each one's share. That is not how it works. Each branch is whole. Your joy in this branch is not diluted by the existence of a grieving you elsewhere, any more than your joy today is diluted by the existence of a grieving stranger across the world. Suffering somewhere does not subtract from happiness somewhere else when the two can never meet, never average, never pool. Every version feels what it feels completely, at full intensity, undivided. The tree does not spread a fixed amount of meaning thinner across more and more selves. It grows more meaning branch by branch, each one a full life fully felt. The multiplication does not cheapen experience. It multiplies it. There is, if anything, more reality, more lived life, more felt joy and felt grief in a branching universe than in a single one, not less. And that reframing matters for the question of cruelty and kindness too, because it means your choices do not become weightless just because their opposites occur elsewhere. The kindness you actually do is fully real in the branch where you do it, felt fully by the person who receives it. The fact that some other version withheld it does not reach into your branch and undo it. Moral weight, like joy, does not get averaged across the tree. It lands, fully, wherever it lands. You are responsible for the branch you are making, the one your thread is steering into, and that responsibility is whole and undiminished, no matter what any other version does on any limb you will never see. Which brings us to the edge of the largest question, the one this whole descent has been carrying us toward, and I am going to pose it now and not pretend to answer it yet. If every choice you could make is already being made, if every road is already walked, if the brave version and the cowardly version and the version who stayed and the version who left all exist with equal reality, whatever you decide, then what, exactly, does your choice mean? When you stand at the next fork, agonizing, weighing, trying to do the right thing, what is the weight of that deciding? If the deciding does not determine which outcomes exist, but only which one you go on to remember, if both branches happen no matter what you choose, is choosing an illusion, is meaning? Is the whole felt drama of being a person who decides things just a story told from inside one strand of a structure that was always going to contain every ending? That is the question that the existence of infinite versions of you finally forces, and it is not a physics question anymore. The physics has done its work. It has shown us the tree. What it cannot tell us is how to stand inside one branch of that tree and live, knowing what we now know with the choices that still feel like ours to make. So let us go there, to the last and most human part of this, and ask what it means to carry the weight of a single life when you know it is one thread among countless others, and whether that knowledge has to hollow this life out, or whether, looked at correctly in the right and quiet light, it might do the opposite. Let us bring the scale back down. We have traveled from a coin on your thumb to a single electron, from the electron to a cat in a box, from the cat to a graduate student who refused to add the missing step, from that student to a universe of branching worlds, and from those worlds to the dizzying democracy of selves that includes every version of you. It has been a long widening. Now we narrow again, all the way back down to one person, in one room, in one branch, reading these words. You, this thread, this single strand traced through the infinite tree. Because the question we ended on, the question of what a choice means when every choice is already taken, can only be answered down here, at human scale, where you actually live. The fear underneath that question is a fear of being made small. If there are countless versions of me, the fear says, then I am just one of a crowd, interchangeable, diluted, a single drop in an ocean of selves, and nothing I do can matter, because whatever I choose, some other me chose otherwise, and it all happens anyway. That is the bleak reading, and I want to take it seriously rather than wave it away, because it is a natural place to land and a heavy one. but I think it gets something exactly backwards, and the turn is worth making slowly. Consider what is actually true of you, this version, this thread. You will only ever live one of these lives from the inside. That is not a limitation imposed on you. That is what it is to be a self at all. The other branches, however real, are not yours to experience. You do not get their mornings. You will never feel what the version who stayed in bed feels, never live the life of the one who took the other train. You have exactly one thread of experience, and it is this one, and it is whole, and it is continuous, and it is the only one you will ever have hold of. The existence of the others does not thin out this one in the slightest. The version of you grieving in some other branch does not borrow a single moment of joy from yours. Your life is not divided among your copies, like an inheritance split too many ways. Each branch is complete, each thread is lived fully. You are not one diluted drop. You are the whole of one ocean, the only ocean you will ever swim in, undiminished by the existence of seas you will never reach. And the choices. Here is the part that matters most, and it is subtle, so stay with it. It is true, on this reading, that when you stand at a fork, both outcomes will come to exist in some branch. You cannot, by choosing, prevent the other outcome from happening somewhere. That power was never yours. But look at what your choice does do, what it actually determines. It determines which branch you go on to inhabit. It determines which version of you carries your thread of experience forward. Choosing is not the act of summoning one outcome into existence and banishing the rest. Choosing is the act of deciding which of these selves you will become, which limb of the tree your one irreplaceable line of experience will follow. That is not a smaller thing than you thought choice was. In a way, it is a larger one. You are not just picking what happens, you are picking who. Out of all the people you could be, the conscious thread that is, you will actually go on being. So the weight of a single choice does not vanish when you learn that all outcomes occur. It relocates. It moves from the outcomes themselves, which were always going to spread across the branches no matter what, to the self, the particular self you are choosing to walk forward as. When you choose the brave thing over the cowardly thing, you are not preventing the cowardly branch from existing that is out of your hands, but you are deciding that the thread you call yourself, the one you wake up inside tomorrow, will be the brave one's thread. You are steering not the tree, which is beyond steering, but your path through it. And steering your one path through the infinite is not a trivial act made meaningless by the infinity. It is the only meaningful act there is. It is the whole of what it means to live a life. The tree was always going to contain everything. You were only ever responsible for your line through it. That responsibility is not lessened by the size of the tree. If anything, the size of the tree is what makes your line precious, because out of all those branches, this is the one you are actually living, and it is yours to walk well or badly, and no other version walking some other branch can walk this one for you. It is worth being clear about what this does and does not ask you to believe, because the comfort only holds if it is honest comfort and not a sleight of hand. It does not ask you to believe that everything works out somewhere, as if that should soothe you. The branches where things go badly are exactly as real as the ones where things go well, and pretending otherwise would be a lie. The consolation is not that there is a happy branch. The consolation is subtler and sturdier than that. It is that this branch, the one you are in, is not a consolation prize. It is not the leftover after the better lives were handed out elsewhere. There is no central lottery that gave the good lives to other versions and left you with this one. Every version, including the ones you might envy, is simply a thread, no more chosen than yours, no more real than yours, no more the true story than yours. You did not lose a competition you never entered. You are living one full life among many full lives, and the fullness of it is not diminished by the others, because fullness, as we said, does not divide. It repeats. And so the weight you carry, the weight of being responsible for steering this one thread well, is not lightened into nothing by the multitude, it is clarified by it. Because once you stop believing that somewhere out there is the real version of your life that you failed to live, once you accept that there is no such thing, no privileged thread, no life you were supposed to have and missed, then the only life left to take seriously is this one. Not because it is the only one that exists, it is not, but because it is the only one that is yours to live, the only channel of the river that is carrying you, the only thread whose inside you will ever touch. The infinity of other selves does not give you permission to drift, as though your choices were absorbed and cancelled by the choices of all the rest. It does the reverse. It strips away every other life you might have hidden behind and leaves you alone with the one you are actually in, fully responsible for the only thing you were ever responsible for, which is how you walk this branch, here, now, with the time you have. Now think about the loneliness, because it is real and I do not want to pretend it away. There is something solitary in this picture, the knowledge that the other versions of you are forever sealed off, that you can never meet the one who made you proud or comfort the one who lost what you kept, that every branch is alone with itself, unable to touch the others it grew from. That is a true loneliness, and it deserves to be named. But notice that it sits right beside its opposite, and the two come together, inseparable. Yes, you are alone in your branch, and yes, you are accompanied in the deepest possible way by countless versions of yourself who came from the same root, who carried the same memories to the same forks, who are facing their own mornings with the same face you see in the mirror. You have never been the only one. You are one of an uncountable family of selves, all of you bound by a shared past, all of you living out the possibilities that were latent in the single person you all once were. The loneliness and the company are the same fact seen from two sides. You walk your branch alone, and you have never, for one instant, been the only you. Earlier, I promised to come back to the calmer and truer thing the branches actually offer, the gentler answer that sits where the fantasy of endless survival falls away. Here it is. The branches do not offer you immortality. They do not promise that your thread runs forever, and we saw why the dream of skipping along only the surviving limbs dissolves when you look at it honestly. What the branches offer is something quieter and, I think, more livable. They offer the dissolving of a particular kind of regret. The lives you did not live are not simply lost, gone, erased the moment you chose otherwise. They are walked fully by versions of you with every right to your name. The brave thing you did not say was said. The path you did not take was taken. You do not have to carry every unlived life as pure loss, because in the only sense the universe allows, none of them were wasted. Every seed of possibility that was real got planted somewhere. That is not the same as getting everything you wanted. It is something subtler. It is permission to set down the particular ache of the road not taken, because the road was taken, just not by you, and the you who took it is no luckier and no realer than you are. And there is a second consolation, one that runs even deeper, and it has to do with what your attention is for. If the tree contains every outcome, and the only thing your choosing controls is which branch your thread of experience follows, then your attention, your presence, the quality of how you actually inhabit this one branch, becomes the most important thing you have. Not because it changes which outcomes exist, but because it determines what this life, the one you are actually living, is like from the inside. Two versions of you might end up in nearly identical branches, same job, same town, same people, and yet one of them lives it half asleep, rushing through, barely present, and the other lives it awake, attentive, grateful for the ordinary light coming through the window. The physics cannot tell those two versions apart by their circumstances. They differ only in how they are met. And that difference, the difference between a life passed through and a life truly lived, is the one thing the branching does not take out of your hands. It hands it to you completely. It says, the outcomes are not yours to command, but the manner of your presence in this single thread is yours alone, and it is everything. There is even a strange tenderness available here, if you want it, toward the other branches you will never see. You can wish them well. The version who is having the harder life, who took the wrong train, who lost what you held on to, that is not a stranger. That is you, walking a thread that forked from yours over something neither of you could have felt happening. You can carry, quietly, a kind of solidarity with all of them, the lucky and the unlucky alike, the way you might feel toward a sibling or toward your own younger self. We are all walking branches of the same tree. We all face our forks alone and choose blind and live with what comes. There is a gentleness in remembering that, a way of holding your own regrets more lightly, because the road not taken was taken by someone who is, in the truest sense, you, and they are carrying their own roads not taken too, and none of you is the one who got it right, and that is not a tragedy. It is just the shape of being a self in a universe that keeps everything. It is worth asking, plainly, whether any of this should change how you live, or whether it is just a beautiful idea to admire from a distance and then set down. And the honest answer is that it does not hand you a new set of rules. It does not tell you which job to take or which person to forgive. The physics is silent on all of that, as it should be. But it does offer a particular angle of vision, a way of holding your own life a little differently, and angles of vision can matter more than rules. Knowing that the tree contains every outcome can loosen the grip of two opposite torments at once. It loosens the grip of regret, because the roads you did not take are not lost. And it loosens the grip of the fantasy that there exists some perfect life you failed to claim, because every life, on every branch, is one thread among the untaken many, and the wiser version you envy is envying someone too. Between those two loosenings there is a clearing, a quiet space where you can stop measuring this life against the ghosts of the lives you did not lead, and simply be in the one that is here. And there is one more thing the idea gives you, which is a sense of scale that cuts both ways at once, and learning to hold both sides is its own kind of maturity. On one side, it makes you small. You are one thread in a structure so vast that no number can hold it, one version among a multitude, decidedly not the center of anything. That is humbling, and it should be, but on the other side, that very same picture makes this particular thread, the one you are, almost unbearably specific and precious, because out of all the countless versions, this is the only one whose inside you will ever know. You are the only one who gets to live this exact life from within. No other branch can do it for you. No other version can stand in your place and feel this afternoon, this breath, this strange quiet moment of learning that you are many. The vastness does not erase you. It frames you. It sets your single ordinary life against an infinite background, and, against that background, The fact that you are here at all, awake, aware, reading the end of a long thought about the nature of reality, stops looking ordinary and starts looking like the rarest thing imaginable. So you can let the two truths sit side by side, the way this whole picture asks you to let the and sit beside the or. You are one of countless versions of yourself, and you are the only version of yourself you will ever be. You are small beyond reckoning, and you are the entire universe of one irreplaceable thread. Both are true. Neither cancels the other. And learning to live inside both at once, without needing to resolve them, without collapsing the pair down to a single comfortable answer, might be the closest thing this strange theory has to offer in the way of wisdom. The cat was both, the worlds are both, you are both, and somehow, holding both, you go on living the one branch that is yours. So let us return, at the very end, to where we began, to the morning, to that small forgotten flicker when you reached for the alarm and, for half a second, staying and rising were both alive in you. When this began, that flicker meant nothing, a blink in an ordinary day. Look at it now. In that half second, a fork opened in the one-wave function that has been evolving since the beginning of everything, and your thread took one limb of it, and another you took the other, and the two of you sealed apart and went on, neither the original, neither the copy, both fully and equally real, both living a whole life from the inside. That ordinary morning was an act of cosmic branching, and so is this moment, right now, as you take in these final words, your thread, separating even now from countless others who are reading them in rooms almost exactly like yours, each of you about to set this down and step back into a life that is yours alone to walk. That is not a smaller world than the one you woke up in. It is a vaster one, and you are not lost in it. You are located in it, precisely, on one bright thread among infinitely many, living the one life you will ever hold, making the choices that decide not what exists, but who you become. Every version of you that could exist does, and out of all of them, you are the one who is here now in this branch, reading the last line of this. That is not a failure of significance. That is the rarest thing there is. So when you set this down and the next small fork opens, the next flicker where two futures are briefly alive in you at once, choose it like it matters, because the outcome will spread across the branches no matter what, but which one you become is yours, and somehow, quietly, against the whole infinite weight of it, that is enough.